November is hardly peak tourist season on the Jersey Shore, although Senior Plus Tours, the company that steers a number of guests in my direction each month, had still sent 3 this week. They weren't here so much for the lovely beaches, now being bulldozed, or the amusement piers, closed for the season except for some reason on Thanksgiving. They were here for the ghosts. Perhaps I should explain. A little over 4 years ago, I was a newly divorced single mother who had just won a lawsuit against a previous employer whose hands hadn't remembered his marriage vows and whose ears had been deaf to my refusals until I decked him. Sorry, until he slipped on some spilled copier toner and bumped his head on my fist. That's what it said in the depositions. I decided to take charge of the changes in my life instead of letting them be imposed upon me, so I moved back to Harbor Haven, where I'd grown up, and bought the Victorian, not in spite of, but because of its having far too many rooms for me and my then 9-year-old daughter Melissa to inhabit. I wanted to own and run a guest house in my hometown, and got a deal on the place because it needed a lot of repairs and renovation. In the midst of doing those, my father had been an independent contractor and had taught me how to do home repair work so I wouldn't be taken in by contractors less scrupulous than he was. I met with an accident and was hit on the head with a bucket of drywall compound, which I can tell you hurt quite a bit. When I regained what few senses I had, I could see 2 people who I'd have sworn had not been there pre-bucket. As it turned out, they were Paul Harrison and Maxie Malone, and they had recently kicked the bucket in what was now my new house. They were ghosts, go figure, who wanted to know who had killed them, which in retrospect was probably reasonable, and wanted me to help them find out, which was not, even in retrospect. There's a story told elsewhere, but suffice it to say, we found Paul and Maxie's murderer, and I think all of us expected that would propel them to some other area of the afterlife, what with the unfinished business on this planet completed. But no. Paul and Maxie were still here in the guest house 4 years and change later. We had worked out an arrangement. Paul had been a private investigator just getting started when he and Maxie had met their end, if you want to call it that, and he still wanted to investigate things. Problem was, he needed someone in the living world to go other places and ask the questions, because the vast majority of people couldn't see or hear him, and at the time, he was unable to move past my property line. He has since overcome that last restriction, but only a select few, including Melissa and my mother, can see the ghosts. Liz and Mom always could, and had chosen not to tell me about it because they thought I'd feel bad. That was something of a miscalculation on their part, but I will admit I probably would have at least taken my daughter to a psychotherapist if I'd heard she could see the spirits of the undead and was fine with it.